I love my childhood sweetheart and was all set to force him into bed. But the system told me I'm the vicious supporting female in a novel and that I'm not allowed to seize the heroine's harem. I lowered my eyes to the man lying beneath me, clothes disheveled, lips flushed red. My very own childhood sweetheart. He was one of the men in the harem the system mentioned. More precisely, he was the villain who lived. For the heroine, died for the heroine, and for the heroine's sake, would never marry in his whole life. On the deep blue king-size bed, John had his eyes blindfolded with a strip of silk, his strong hands tied above his head. His clothes were open, his breathing chaotic. When he realized someone was pushing the door open, his body trembled slightly and he panted, "Mary, is that you?" The once arrogant, cold genius lawyer was now at someone else's mercy. Standing over him, I felt my throat go dry. Yet just as I was about to pounce and take him, a memory that did not belong to me suddenly rang out in my mind. In that memory, I was a domineering female CEO in a matriarchal world, and the vicious antagonist in a four-way entanglement with 3 male leads. My sole reason for existing was to serve as a foil to highlight the heroine's allure. I was born into wealth, while the heroine came from a pitiful background. I was tall, beautiful, and confident, while the heroine was ordinary in both looks and temperament. And yet, despite everything I had, the male leads all fell for the heroine as if they were moths to a flame. So much so that in modern society they even accepted the 4 of them living under one roof. As for me, the vicious supporting female, once I learned the truth, I was utterly unwilling to accept it, and I plotted a car accident to take her life. But before the accident could happen, the villain who always protected the heroine in secret uncovered my scheme. To keep me from causing further trouble, he locked me up in a small wooden cabin by the sea, patiently, solving the calamity that was me for the sake of the one he loved, using very cruel methods. When the memory ended, I reflexively checked my own body, still warm, still intact, not yet become fish food. What a relief! But before I could exhale in peace, an electronic voice sounded in my head. Congratulations! Host, you have bound to the escape the vicious supporting female system. As long as you cooperate and complete the supporting villainous script, the system will take you away before the villain turns you into a tragic object lesson. Along with those words, the image of a pair of legs stripped down to bare bone, that bizarre, horrifying death, flashed through my mind once more. I asked the system, "Do you know who killed me?" The system was silent for 2 seconds, then said with a gloating lilt, "Dear host, it's the man you have tied to the bed. He is the villain of the story, but he harbors deep feelings for the heroine. Every time the heroine is in danger, he helps her silently." John? How could the villain possibly be my childhood sweetheart? Once the truth came out, I lunged forward, cold sweat pouring, and pulled off the silk stockings tying his hands. "John, are you okay? I didn't mean to tie you up. I just wanted to be intimate with you a little." That clearly sounded wrong, so I hurriedly made up a story. I was only joking with my friends. I didn't expect them to actually bring you here. The silk slipped off the bridge of John's straight nose, being blindfolded. Too long had left the outer corners of his eyes unusually red. After I untied him, he sat blankly at the end of the bed for a long time before finally stammering, "You call this a joke?" John's eyes gleamed vaguely, as if my boundary-crossing action just now had toppled his entire worldview. I cleared my throat and forced an explanation. This was just us fooling around. My liking for John was a secret known to all. At first, many of my friends couldn't understand it and wondered why I was grazing the grass by my own pen. But because I mentioned him so often, they gradually got used to it and even discussed how to help me pursue him. Today's script was something our whole group had carefully planned for a long time, only regret that being cut short halfway. If John had even a shred of feeling for me, how could he treat me like this? I don't know if I mistook, but the moment I finished speaking, his eyes seemed to flush the color of blood. "Mary." His wrist moved slightly. He leaned in as if to take my hand, but the sensation of flayed pain seemed to linger in my body. The instant he touched me, I jumped back on reflex, shook off his hand and blurted, "John, I won't do this again. Don't be angry." That year, John moved in next door to me. He was quiet. For school, he left at dawn and returned late at night. During holidays, he never showed his face, his door always locked, as if he were invisible. My father is soft-hearted. He can't stand seeing others have it hard, so he bought bags and bags of supplies to bring him. Most of the time, he refused. On the rare occasions he accepted, the next day he would convert them to cash and quietly slip the money into my father's wallet. I'm a year younger than John. The way he suddenly shared my father's affection was deeply off-putting to me, and I was always looking for a chance to teach him a lesson. But before I could act, I personally witnessed a group of thugs blocking his path after school. "Hey, top student, aren't you so good at making money? How come you don't even have 50 yuan on you?" They taunted John and ground his face underfoot. And he, the one my father couldn't cajole into sparing him a glance, still forced himself to stand up before them, letting them do as they pleased. I don't know why, but in that moment, I flew into a rage. Smack! I crushed the empty can of Coke in my hand and flung it straight at the ringleader. "If you want money, why don't you come to me? What kind of skill is it to bully a transfer student?" The blonde turned back angrily, but the moment he saw me, he fell silent. He drew back his ferocity, clasped his hands respectfully, and said, "Sister Mary, you know this guy?" I frowned, unwilling to answer. He let out an "oh," looking as if he suddenly understood. "Got it. So he's one of Sister Mary's people, a great flood sweeping away the Dragon King's temple." As they spoke, they returned the money they'd taken from John and even patted his chest, putting on a show of brotherly camaraderie. "Brother, if you'd said earlier you were Sister Mary's, we wouldn't have dared make things hard for you. With her backing you, who else would you even look at?" But the system can testify that not only did John like someone else, he treated me like a piece of Peking duck for her sake. I truly can't understand why he would torment me so much over the heroine. That night, I tossed and turned, reliving the past and unable to sleep. My best friend, who'd arranged everything, couldn't be bothered to wait. At dawn, before I'd even woken up, she'd already called 4 or 5 times. "Well, how was John? Was he tasty?" Half asleep, I answered on reflex. "A husband you raise yourself from childhood. How could he not be tasty?" Then I lazily rolled over and muttered, "Don't people always say, a husband raised from young is the optimal choice?" On the other end, my best friend was so excited that she was about to explode. "So you confessed successfully, right?" How to such an extent? A few memories suddenly surged back. I hurriedly cleared my throat and scrambled to correct myself. "Confess what? That guy's personality is bland and boring. How could I like him?" "I said I liked him. Must have been your hallucination. Everything before was just fooling around. Don't bring it up again." She was startled. "Are you not fully awake yet?" I rubbed my eyes, trying to put my thoughts in order. But the instant my eyelids opened, my gaze collided with the person standing by the side of the bed. John. How long had he been there? Had he heard everything? Panicking, I hung up, braced my hands, and sat up. "John, did you need something?" Today, John was wearing soft white loungewear, carrying a faint, clean scent. The long sleeves covered the bruises on his wrist, giving him a gentle, fragile air, like a husband who had just been cherished for a night. He spoke suddenly. "Mary, do you think I'm obedient?" I jolted. "What? No, nothing," he said softly. "Breakfast is ready. Get up and eat." It really was a strange morning. Since the day John and his stepmother moved into our house, we've run into each other in the mornings, not 500 times, then 1,000. Yet the way he was looking at me now made me extremely uncomfortable. "John, we're both adults now. From here on, don't come into my room without permission." After I spoke, I didn't dare look him in the face. After all, I was the one who once said, "My door will always be open for you." Ever since I'd seen John surrounded by thugs with my own eyes, my feelings for him had changed. His parents divorced early, then each started a new family and avoided him like a venomous snake. My dad pitied him and tried to treat him well, often inviting him over for meals in hopes of getting closer. But out in the world, John was bullied so badly and still never let out a peep. Didn't that make my dad lose face even more? So I tailed him for 3 weeks and discovered that the reason he left at dawn and got back late was because he worked part-time after school. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays he worked at a supermarket, hauling frozen seafood. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays he did the night shift at a 24-hour convenience store. On the rare weekends he had off, he tutored kids from 4 different families from morning till afternoon. After 3 weeks of shadowing him, I was so exhausted I couldn't make up for it even by eating 3 bowls of rice at every meal. And yet John lived as if he weren't human. Whenever he came over to my house for dinner, he only ever picked from the nearest plate of vegetables. I couldn't stand it anymore. Quietly dodging my dad's notice, I picked up a piece of beef and dropped it into his bowl. "Let's see whether you're allergic to meat." John lifted his head to look at me. and it was as if those eyes were truly seeing me for the first time. I couldn't make sense of it. I casually tossed 2 shrimp into his bowl as well and said, "If you're unhappy, go outside and get into a fight." John's long black lashes trembled. After a moment, he bit into the meat with great care, and his voice rang out gentle as Jade tapping Jade. "I can't beat you!" While the boys our age were in the middle of their voice change, shouting like busted loudspeakers. His teenage voice carried a gentle current, lightly scratching at my heart. From that day on, John and I started talking much more. Besides the way I'd pick food into his bowl whenever I didn't like what I saw, I also frequently covered for him at school. He was a transfer student, mild-tempered and good-looking. Even just quietly studying drew people to come and get acquainted. 3 times in a row I caught someone trying to coax or threaten him into a confession, and I lost my temper, charging straight into the school's broadcast room to declare at the top of my lungs, "John belongs to me, Mary. I'm keeping him. So he'll study hard and make me proud. What do you all think you're doing? Anyone who dares flirt with him and keeps him from focusing on his studies, believe it or not, I'll air every one of your dirty secrets for everyone to hear." After that, sure enough, no one dared bother John anymore. They were afraid I'd go crazy. And the reason I didn't keep going crazy was that I thought his life was truly pitiful. I just wanted to give him a bit of peace. In the rainy season of July and August, thunder rolled so loudly you couldn't even feel like gaming. Annoyed, I tossed my controller and stepped out of my room, only to run into John hovering outside my door. I asked, "Do you need something?" My dad had said John had no one to take care of him living alone, so he'd let him move into our house. I lifted my chin to look at him, wondering how someone who ate so little could be that tall. He didn't answer. After a long silence, he suddenly clutched the hem of my shirt. "Are you going out? Could I come with you?" He was cautious, as if he were making an utterly unreasonable request. I nodded offhandedly and dragged the tail behind me downstairs. I opened the fridge and grabbed a chilled can of Coke as I popped it open. I glanced at him standing beside me with a hungry look in his eyes. Out of kindness, I reminded him, "Do you know my dad's a nouveau riche? Why are you saving money for someone like that?" Then I took out another can of Coke, intending to hand it to him, but halfway through, I changed my mind, shoved the can back, and swapped it for a carton of milk. "What are you spacing out for? Drink." That day, the rain never let up. Thunder kept booming, and John shadowed me without leaving my side. Back in my room, I booted up a 2-player game and taught him how to play. We played until 1 in the morning, and after 100 crushing defeats, I finally realized something was off. "John, you're afraid of thunder, aren't you? Just admit it, we've lost more than 100 rounds. At this point, sleeping would be better than this." His bangs fell to cover his eyes, so I couldn't see his expression. But I could clearly see his fingers trembling with self-reproach. I sighed, pulled him onto the bed, took back the controller, and said, "You sleep. I'll play and keep watch." Unexpectedly, John didn't refuse. He buried his face in my blanket and spoke in a mosquito-soft voice. "Mary, aren't you going to sleep?" I answered carelessly, "Do you even understand the concept of men and women being different? You've taken my bed and still want me to sleep on the sofa? Keep dreaming." John seemed to smile. When I turned back, the corners of his lips had already retracted. Only his eyes were still smiling. It was clearly a rainy day, yet in that instant all I felt was heat. I chuckled. "In short, if you need someone by your side, just come find me. I'll protect you. We'll say I'm doing it to honor my dad." John didn't believe it and double-checked. "Anytime?" "Yeah," I replied decisively. He asked again, "What if I make you angry?" I let out a small laugh. "Big brother, why keep such careful accounts?" In fact, that promise had been in place for years, and having it abruptly revoked left me feeling deeply unsettled. As the memory ended, John, who had been silent all this time, finally reacted. "Mary, are you mad at me?" His voice was soft, his throat bobbing as if he were swallowing down words that were hard to say. "Because you didn't want Lisa to be my assistant and I didn't listen? About that." He was finally willing to explain, but I only turned my face away coolly, refusing to look at him. "John, that's not it. Don't overthink it. John's cooking isn't bad. Whenever my dad was away, I basically relied on his food to get by. But today, for some reason, I had no appetite. After a few perfunctory bites, I grabbed my car keys and got up to head out. Suddenly, he caught the hem of my clothes. I sent the car in for maintenance. Could you take me out?" Ever since I'd made my feelings for him clear, John had rarely asked me for favors. For him to ask out of the blue today, something must be up. After thinking a moment, I handed him the keys. Then you drive the car. I'll have Kevin pick me up. I called Kevin, my next-door neighbor and childhood playmate. Our personalities fit together like trash with trash. Despite the cold, Kevin zoomed over in a convertible with ridiculously showy scissor doors. When they lifted, he glanced at me, then at John, and for once managed a polite line, "Thanks for the opportunity, Lawyer John." Then he grinned and held out a small bouquet of roses to me. "Princess, your carriage awaits." I casually tossed my bag at him. "So sappy this early in the morning. What older sister are you trying to woo now?" Kevin burst out laughing. Who else but my sister Mary? His mouth never had an off switch. I was used to it and couldn't be bothered to quibble. I shot him a glare, slid into the car, and pulled the door down. He didn't mind at all. Behind us, John still stood there, fingers clenched tight around the car key, watching as the car pulled away. Work was piled up. This morning I was spinning through all kinds of meetings. I had barely stepped out of the conference room when my assistant came over. Casting me a meaningful look, "Director Mary, Lawyer John has arrived. My dad is the king of exam addict certification hoarders. At the company he runs, even a fly coming in would have to clock in on time." I couldn't stand it. So after graduating college, I struck out on my own and started a media company that works 4 days and rests 3. John had come here a few times, intending to persuade me to go back and help my dad, but every time I just got dazzled by his suit-clad figure, my brain slowing to a crawl, unable to take in a single word. I asked the assistant, who was blinking all kinds of suggestive winks, "Where is he?" "In your office already," the assistant replied. "Tea is prepared, Director Mary. So, when is Mr. John becoming our company's vice president?" I sighed, patted that curiosity-filled head, and said, "Next time, take guests to the reception lounge. If I'm not in the office, don't let anyone go in, it will." No sooner had I finished than the assistant's face froze. He knew I had feelings for John and had unconsciously given him special treatment. It wasn't his fault. It was me being too obvious, putting us both in an awkward spot. He still didn't say anything, just looked quietly past my shoulder. I followed his gaze. John was standing at the door, a dazed look on his face as if he'd just been struck in the heart. He had long legs, a slim waist, and a naturally elegant bearing. Yet at this moment, he looked like he could barely stand. "John," I called softly, taking a few steps toward him. Before I could make sense of what was happening, John forced out a smile. I suddenly remembered I had something to do. "I'll be going." With that, he turned and strode quickly toward the exit, but a second later, not watching his step, he stumbled over a potted plant by the corridor and lurched, one hand coming down on a cactus. His eyes flew wide, his pupils tightened from the pain. Before he could react, a figure rushed up beside him. Anna grabbed his hand and swiftly plucked out the spines one by one, then, without a word, moved to put the wound into her mouth. My eyes bulged. I turned to the system and ground out between my teeth. "Didn't you say? No one is allowed to touch the men who belong to the female lead? Then what the hell is this?" The system was silent for 2 seconds, then replied with a bitter edge, "Dear host, Anna is the female lead of this story. Anna is the daughter of our household's maid. Before 15, she lived in the mountains with her maternal grandparents, doing things like slopping pigs and chopping firewood. After her parents divorced, she followed her mother down to the city and came to work at our house. My dad has a soft heart. Seeing how pitiful she seemed, he even paid to put her in the same school as me. But Anna wasn't the least bit grateful. Just a few days after transferring, she stole the class fund. When we checked the cameras and found the culprit, she stuck out her neck and brazenly said, 50 yuan is nothing to you people, but to me it's 3 days of food." We all looked at each other. There was sympathy, sure, but we still decided to waive her share and only asked her to return the money to the others. Anna claimed she'd lost it and begged everyone to forgive her. Seeing her eyes brimming with tears, no one could bring themselves to scold her. Yet not even a week later, she brought to school a hair clip worth 5,000 yuan, flaunting it everywhere. Someone recognized how expensive it was and immediately suspected she'd used the class money to buy it. But she clenched her teeth and refused to admit anything. In the end, the teacher had to call in the parents. In front of everyone, Anna burst into tears and browbeat her mother with reason. "You're making 30,000 a month now, so what if you buy me a hair clip? I like this clip, and if I say I won't pay it back, then I won't." Anna's mother had once borrowed a lot from relatives to take care of the family. Now her salary was high, but it went to paying off debts, and she lived extremely frugally. Hearing her daughter talk like that, Anna's mother wept with regret, grabbed my hand, and begged through tears, "Mary, you're a good child. Could you lend Auntie 5,000? Auntie is begging you." Ashamed that her mother had lost face, Anna broke free of the crowd, climbed to the rooftop, and shouted, "If you can't give me anything I want, then why did you give birth to me? So I could suffer with you? Someone like you isn't fit to be a mother at all." Anna's mother fainted from rage. Students had to press her philtrum to bring her around. The moment she woke, she started kowtowing like mad. "Don't jump. Please don't jump. You want the hair clip, right? I'll sell our things to buy it for you. Anna, don't jump!" The scene was such a ruckus that no one could pursue the matter of the class fund anymore. The whole class could only swallow the loss. Not long after came the monthly exams. Wearing that hair clip, Anna looked brimming with confidence, ready to shine. But as soon as the results were announced, the school called in the parents again. Before the exam, someone picked the lock and slipped into the office to see the paper. The school had been forced to change the questions overnight, and Anna was the only one in the entire 11th grade who wrote the old answers on the new test. Turns out, to get the solutions, she had coerced a younger student into stealing the paper, then claimed he'd volunteered. So young and already unwilling to stop at anything, teachers said they couldn't teach her anymore. Anna's mother wept like rain and kept pleading, but Anna lifted her chin arrogantly. "Expel me if you want, just don't regret it." She stormed out of school, and the boy who stole the test for her soon applied to withdraw as well. Later, Anna came to beg my dad for a job. After thinking it over, he let her and her mother continue working as household help. But then, to steal my bracelet, Anna fell straight from the 3rd floor of the villa. She broke her leg and was taken home by the doctor. The moment she came to, she lay at our doorstep and howled, "Mary, you're a venomous snake! A bracelet means nothing to you, yet you deliberately scared me so badly I almost died. You did it on purpose. You wanted to kill me, didn't you? What grudge do I have with you? Why do you keep tormenting me like this? Last time you could have helped me pay the class fund, but you stood by and watched people laugh at me. Were you happy? Huh?" My dad rushed back when he heard, panicked, and called me over to ask what had happened. Once he knew the truth, he immediately fired the mother and daughter and said, sternly, "People without boundaries, best not to get involved with them." I agreed completely. To this day, I still can't figure out what kind of person Anna really is, yet the system says she's the female lead. In my understanding, a heroine can be poor, can pursue material things or love. But none of that should be built on theft or hurting those around her. And yet John loves her, keeps his chastity for her his whole life, even doesn't hesitate to kill me, just to protect Anna's happiness. I narrowed my eyes, a cold laugh rising in my chest. In the end, is he crazy? Or is this world crazy? I was just about to step forward to put myself between John and Anna when the system suddenly blared a piercing sound and a powerful electric jolt shot through my body. Host. This is a key plot point. The villain falls in love with the female lead at first sight. You are not allowed to interfere. If you skew the plot, both you and the villain will be erased by heaven's will. I forced myself to keep control, trying not to let the electric current make me act strangely. But really? Even a scene like getting pricked by a cactus and then having the female lead lick his hand counts as a preset plot point? I stepped forward, pulled John behind me, and looked straight at Anna's slick, scheming face. Is your spit that clean? If you like licking so much, why not go to a public restroom and lick to your heart's content? It smells more there. Wouldn't that be better? Anna froze, but immediately tilted her chin, righteous and loud. Mary, you're allowed to mistreat John, but other people aren't allowed to save him? He's hurt. If it's not handled in time, it'll leave a scar. With that self-sacrificing expression, she looked like a fearless martyr. Everyone stared at her, while in my heart only one question rose up. Is this really the female lead? What kind of female lead opens her mouth just to lick a man's hand? Stranger still, the system that always loved to praise Anna was completely silent this time. I took John's hand and said coolly, I'll take care of his wound. No need for you to worry. Then I pulled him away. Behind us, Anna shouted, Mary, you think you're so great, don't you? What gives you the right to ignore the injured party's opinion? It's just because you've got a rich dad, isn't it? I truly couldn't follow her logic anymore. I closed my eyes for a beat, then turned and asked John, do you want to listen to me or to her? I left the choice to him, and when John stepped over to stand beside Anna, the thing that had been crushed down inside me all this time finally burst into outright despair. So there really is such a thing in this world as heaven's will and the protagonist's halo, is there? The system spoke coldly, Host, a villain loving the female lead is normal. Him loving you would be a serious problem. Now that everything was back on track, I no longer had to worry about being erased by the system, and I could even enjoy a bit of peace. Not bad at all. In the second week after my less than amicable breakup with John, the system went ding again, reminding me to go to the red bar that night. According to the original novel, the overbearing lady CEO and her 3 men, the most important male lead, would appear there that evening. And I, the vicious supporting actress, would fall for him at first sight and even dismiss my own harem for his sake. Except, since when did I have a harem? The system chuckled, voice sly. Dear host, your company is famous for having a surplus of male MCs. Surely there's someone you're a bit ambiguous with. I frowned and answered seriously. I run a proper media company. I don't play those games. The system clicked its tongue. Dear, whether you play or not doesn't matter, so long as, in the female lead's eyes, you and they look ambiguous. Then ambiguous is what it is. It even giggled, as if it had discovered something amusing. I was speechless, yet, thinking about it, in Anna's eyes, my refusal to pay her class fund, to let her steal, to hide the truth from my father, all the things I thought were right became deliberate opposition to her. If that's the case, then I really am the evil supporting role, name and reality matching. An odd little feeling flashed through my mind, like a spark of inspiration. But before I could grasp it, the system suddenly yelled, Host! The male lead has appeared! Quickly, use your charms and bewitch him. I narrowed my eyes in the direction it indicated. Sure enough, the male lead, gray in a black suit, had just stepped into the bar. His skin was white and fine as snow, his gaze carrying a hazy, wounded air, and on the tip of his pen-straight brow was a faint red mole, so beautiful it hurt to look at. Even without the system saying so, a single glance and I knew he was the male lead. He was too beautiful, so beautiful he didn't belong to the same visual plane as everyone around. Him, like a 4K character who'd wandered into a blurry 480p world. Yet someone like that was still drowning his sorrows in drink, all because he'd just seen messages between Anna and another man. At this moment, Gray couldn't accept the female lead sharing her love with others, so he downed several drinks as soon as he sat. In a women-dominated world, bars at night are always hunting grounds for women. Gray thought that staying quiet meant safety, not realizing a pack of hungry wolves had already set their sights on him. I asked the system, since I'd seen him, could I go now? It wasn't early anymore. I just wanted to breeze through this plot beat and go home to sleep. The system sounded regretful. You could leave, but soon Gray will be molested. In such distress, host, don't you want to show a bit of righteousness? I choked, nearly swallowing my own spit. Who's going to be molested? The system laughed. Gray, who else? Otherwise, how could someone so proud accept marrying the female lead alongside 2 other men? He has to hit rock bottom first, then suddenly realize love doesn't require exclusivity. I couldn't make sense of that twisted logic. Trembling with anger, I stood up to leave the table. But even after getting into the car, the discomfort in my chest didn't ease. Novel or not, you can't force a man through humiliation just to justify the female lead keeping 3 boats afloat, can you? Moreover, Gray was clearly a living, breathing human in front of me. I gripped my golf club, swung the car around, and raced back to the bar. By the time I arrived, he was dead drunk. His eyes were glassy, his body staggering, his arm around a woman over 40, and he murmured, Anna. The woman smiled, exchanged a look with her friends, and moved to take him away. Bang! I slammed the golf club down on the tabletop. The entire bar counter gave a distinct shudder. I raised my voice. Haughty, he's coming with me. You all go find someone else. Seeing me come to snatch him away, the group of women closed in, aggressive. Little sister, we called dibs first. If you want to play, get in line. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I pulled out my wallet, peeled off a wad of cash, and slapped it on the table. He's an acquaintance of mine. Go play somewhere else. The greatest perk of being the daughter of a newly rich family is tossing money without blinking. Sure enough, the women took the cash and quickly backed off. Only the system screamed like an electric shock, issuing a warning current through me. Ho! You're intervening at the wrong time. Even if you rescue him, when Gray wakes up at your house tomorrow, he'll still feel defiled. You're wasting your effort. I narrowed my eyes. At last, I seized that spark of inspiration from earlier. So things don't have to actually happen. So long as the sequence matches the original, the system will accept the outcome. For example, Gray gets drunk and wakes up somewhere unfamiliar. The specifics can change, but as long as the beginning and end align with the source, the system, and the female lead, we'll believe he's been tainted. How laughable. The villa I was staying in was a gift from my father on my 18th birthday. I'd moved in recently to avoid seeing John. We hadn't met in quite a while, yet the moment I helped the drunken Gray out of the car, I ran straight into John waiting at the gate. Pale moonlight washed over his face, highlighting the gaunt weariness there. As I opened the car door and stepped out, he smiled. But that smile lasted less than a second, because his gaze quickly fell to the unconscious Gray in the passenger seat. Every trace of joy evaporated from his features in an instant. For a heartbeat, I felt as if I saw a flicker of withering in John's eyes. But when I steadied myself and looked again, it was gone, as if it had never been. I took the initiative. "Were you looking for me for something?" John shot back with a question of his own. "Who is he? Have you been with him this whole time?" "Mary! If I hadn't come tonight, what exactly were you planning to do with him?" Up close, I noticed his eyes were bloodshot, the veins standing out on the back of his hand from how hard he was clenching his fist. If the system hadn't said he loved Anna and would stay unmarried his whole life for her, his current state would be no different from a man who'd just caught his lover cheating. I laughed, lifted a hand, and patted his cheek lightly. "What do you think a man and a woman do when they're alone in a villa? Still going to play innocent? At this point, you still need to keep up appearances?" It was in that moment I realized my feelings for John weren't nearly as simple or pure as I'd always believed. Back when I first founded my studio, on the day we signed our first contract, it was pouring rain. John stood outside my office door with a bouquet of fresh flowers, drenched. Head to toe, fringe plastered to his brow, water dripping in beads. Meanwhile, Kevin was buzzing in my ear. "Come to Northern Europe with me. You've worked yourself half to death for years. It's time to treat yourself to a real vacation." While I hesitated, John stood at the edge of the crowd, lifting his hand to wave me over with the bouquet, those deep black eyes. All of it pierced straight through my heart. He smiled and said, "Congratulations." The rain was pouring, soaking even his eyelashes. I looked at him, my heart pounding so hard I couldn't hear a word he was saying. Only when Kevin took the bouquet from my hands did the buzzing in my ears slowly fade. "Aren't you afraid? You dared to run out in weather like this? And next time, cut it with the empty gestures." I blurted out without thinking, snatched the bouquet back from Kevin, and gave a faint snort. Without John, none of this meant anything at all. After that, for a long stretch of time, I trailed after John everywhere. Whenever he was short on money and I asked him out, I only picked the cheapest places I could find. I said, "John, let me teach you how to swim, okay?" Yes, I had my own motives, none of them pure. But the moment he nodded, I truly believed he had feelings for me too. The pool that day wasn't anything fancy, but when John came out with a towel over his shoulders, I still felt the trip was worth it. Until, "Is this a pot of soup for dumpling filling?" If I'd known, I would have booked us a villa in the suburbs instead. Kevin and a few friends showed up out of nowhere, and John was leaning against my chest, learning to hold his breath. I'd wanted a world of just the two of us, and I hurriedly blinked a signal for him to hide in a corner with me, but John pushed me away and said, "Mary, go hang out with them. I'll head back first." After that, John taught himself to swim. When I found out, I was too annoyed to speak. Just as I was thinking I should confess, Lisa appeared. One stormy night, I deliberately came home early, only to see Lisa helping a dead-drunk John through the door. She smiled politely and introduced herself. "Director Mary, I'm lawyer John's new assistant. We had a company dinner tonight, and he drank a few glasses for me. May I come in and make him some honey water?" It was an utterly clumsy test of the waters, as if stepping over this threshold would let her sit securely as the lady of John's house. I didn't make things hard for the beauty. I simply smiled and stepped back, thinking he would refuse her, just as he had. Always refused all the hangover soups I brought him, he would refuse her too. But what I saw instead was him draining the honey water from her hand. So when the system suddenly popped up to declare me the vicious supporting actress, I'd braced myself for the female lead to be Lisa. But no, it was a name that came out of nowhere, Anna. John split his heart in two, one half for Anna and the other for Lisa. No share left for me. And yet he had the nerve to question me? The next day at work, Gray had vanished from the sofa. Checking the cameras, I saw it was John who had taken him away the previous night. This so-called villain really would do anything to protect the female lead's happiness. After watching the footage, the system chuckled as if enjoying a show. Dear host, in this story no one can compete with the female lead. Even if someone changes the plot, heavens, Wei will find a way to remove them. You and John are fated to have no ending. Instead of wasting your strength on him, why not go back and tend to the male MCs at your company? With a nasty little laugh in my ear, I tossed back the last of my drink. And, following the plot, went to meet the second male lead, Justin. The system gave me a quick rundown. Justin is a fine arts student. One day he ordered takeout and the delivery person happened to be Anna. She took a liking to his looks and secretly spiked his food. When the drug took effect, Justin thought a classmate had set him up, and when Anna happened to appear, he mistook her for his savior and fell for her from then on. Only after they married did he learn that the one who drugged him back then was Anna herself. There's no extra chapter for this story. The last detail about him is this. With red-rimmed eyes, Justin leaned on Anna's shoulder. Thinking of the child in her belly, he decided not to pursue the matter, and only chided her gently. Next time, don't deceive me again, and forgave her. My mission that day was to buy one of Justin's paintings at a high price to catch his attention, and, at the same time, make the female lead uncomfortable. Just hearing it, you could tell it was something only a vicious supporting character would do. I curled my lip, took 2 stiletto-heeled cocktail glasses, and sauntered up to Justin. Have a drink to warm up. He instinctively backed away and shook his head. I don't dare. Too many people in this world are jealous of my talent. I was harmed once before. I absolutely won't let it happen again. He was an art student, eyes like a fawn's, not yet graduated. Facing an adult in a suit at an exhibition like me, he carried a young person's instinctive mix of respect and wariness. I gave a faint smile and nodded. Then introduced the paintings to me. My gaze slid past his shirt collar and immediately caught a faint, reddish love bite. My instincts told me Anna couldn't be far. Sure enough, a second after she saw me standing beside Justin, Anna strode in wearing a delivery uniform. The moment she spotted me, she sneered, "Mary, does a nouveau riche like you even understand art? Art isn't something you can buy just because you have money." She had no idea how ridiculous she sounded, and didn't realize that what she'd just done had humiliated Justin. All she wanted was to make me lose face. She kept pressing, "You were just looking at Wooden Sun, weren't you? Well, how much are you planning to pay for it?" I glanced at Justin. His face had gone pale, his eyes flickering as the crowd's attention began to gather. I curved my lips slightly. 200,000. Believe it or not, I can take it home right now for 200,000. Still riding high on her smugness, Anna didn't notice the horror in Justin's eyes. For a young painter selling to the market for the first time, the starting price sets the benchmark for an entire career. If I set it at 200,000, then from that day forward, every painting of Justin's would have to fetch no less than 200,000. Anna blandly offered 20 yuan. She was wagering his entire artistic career just to slap me in the face. And Justin, what did he think? Sensing trouble, the gallery manager hurried over to smooth things out. Justin looked at me, then at Anna, his eyes full of pleading. "Hurry up and agree." In the end, with the rims of his eyes reddening, he choked out each word. "Sell it to Miss Anna." Anna won. Right then and there, she had Wooden Sun taken down and thrown straight onto the roadwork outside. The hot asphalt swallowed Justin's hopes, inch by inch. Justin stood there like a wounded beast that had lost control, despairing. To the extreme, while Anna laughed heartily, surprised, "Mary? There's actually a day when I can grind your face into the dirt. What you couldn't buy for 200,000, I got for 20 yuan. Not only can I buy it, I can destroy it. So what if you have money? You'll never measure up to me." On the way back, the system offered its usual consolation, "Dear host, getting slapped in the face by the female lead is the fate of a supporting villain. If you feel too humiliated, just hurry and finish your missions. I'll take you to another world for fun." 3 months passed in a blink, and on the day of Anna's wedding, I hired a car to lie in wait along the route she'd be taking, just as the system required. A girl marrying 3 men at once, even in a female-dominated world, makes people's eyes pop. At the dress rehearsal, the officiant stood center stage and, following procedure, asked in turn, "Mr. Gray, Mr. Justin, Mr. Cato, do you vow to stay with Anna for life? Never to abandon her?" The scene was so ridiculous it was hard to believe it was real, but when I saw the third male lead standing in the far corner, I couldn't laugh. He looked so familiar, yet I couldn't place where I'd seen him. I asked the system, "Why hasn't this third male lead had a scene with me yet?" In a lazy tone, the system replied, "You've met him, back in high school." To get a high score, the female lead received test answers from the third male lead. But the guy was too dumb, he stole the wrong exam, it was exposed, and the female lead was implicated and expelled on the spot. Out of guilt, the third male lead dropped out to follow her. The problem is, that answer key was clearly something Anna forced him to steal. Practically everything the system told me only made sense to Anna herself. After all, in this world, who could be more vicious than she is? I let out a faint, contemptuous laugh, looking at the face that had appeared on honor boards so many times. A sourness rose in my chest that I couldn't quite name. In this world, everything revolves around the female lead. To be with Anna, Gray gave up the right to start his own company. Justin turned his entire painting career into a tool to slap the supporting villain. And the third male lead, Cato, had his life ruined from the very start. When the rehearsal ended, Anna calmly got into the car and left home for the venue. The system piped up again. "Host, the car you prepared can make contact now. This is your final mission as the supporting villain. Complete it, and I'll take you out of the tragedy the villain created." The system urged me on, repeating itself in my head. Under that pressure, I ordered the driver to speed up, racing straight toward Anna. But when we were still 500 meters away, my car was blocked, parked. Across the main road was another vehicle John had set up in advance. Unaware of my plan, Anna arrived at the wedding venue without a hitch and held the ceremony with her 3 men. As for me, a handkerchief laced with sedative knocked me out. When I woke, there was only the pounding of surf in my ears. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. John's revenge had finally come. I dragged myself through the darkness and cried out in panic. "System! System!" No one answered. Everything was swallowed in pitch black. The chatterbox that was always issuing instructions had vanished without a trace. The feeling of betrayal by the system nearly swallowed me whole. I screamed in a frenzy, "Where are you, system? Where the hell are you?" Only after I had tasted enough despair did the system saunter back, its tone as emotionless as if making small talk over. "Dear host, the final ending for a vicious supporting actress is to die as a foil for the female lead's happiness. Even if you call me, there's nothing I can do." It flipped its face faster than a page, even giggling hee-hee with glee, but very quickly it realized something was off. Bound hand and foot, head bowed, I was laughing even more broadly than it was. All the key plot points of the original story have already passed. On what basis do you think I'm still the supporting character? The system fell silent, incredulous. "What do you mean?" I smiled, calm as could be. "You told me to ram my car into Anna. I did. You said the supporting actress had to be tied up at the seaside cabin by the villain. He's done that too. Now, in the original, all the mandatory beats for the supporting villain are finished. So, what do you have left to threaten me with?" Silence. But when it saw John approaching with a knife, it let out a laugh. "It's true, I no longer have the right to punish you, but the villain still can. He'll kill you!" And yet, when it saw John sit down beside me, the system's laughter cut off. It shrieked in panic. "Impossible! The villain clearly chose the female lead." Yes, John had chosen the female lead, but that was under my subtle guidance. In all the years we'd lived together, I had never called him John under normal circumstances. I only started addressing him that way after the system appeared and kept threatening me with death. With someone as sharp as John, how could he fail to notice? From beginning to end, everything we did was just acting according to the system's demands. Then John said to Gray, "Call the police." While the system was still spiraling into chaos, I smiled mildly and reminded it, "Even if you want to stop it, you can't. I've completed every mission. You no longer have any grounds to dispose of me." The system howled. "Why? Why would you do this? You'll be the death of me." At that moment, the system finally revealed its true face. It was Anna. Her voice screamed inside my head. "Mary, when did you figure it out?" Simple. Every time I spoke with Anna, the system that usually chattered nonstop and praised, the female lead to the skies would suddenly go mute, clearly out of character. In this world, who but Anna herself would believe she's a good person? Now that the female lead's wedding was over and the peak of her life had passed, the halo of the protagonist had faded. She could no longer threaten anyone. In fact, even the extras the author never wrote, those should be penned by us, the side characters, from now on. Anna was a counterfeit female CEO, but her 3 men were the real deal. Gray was the young master of the Smith family. Justin was the scion of a famed artistic lineage, and though Cato was quiet, his background was formidable. They had poured all their resources into the female lead. Now, freed from the chains of the plot, The first thing they did was slap Anna down without mercy. After that, all three had her sent to prison. Her company was investigated for regulatory violations, and since she had offended all three male leads, it was only a matter of time before she rotted behind bars. The one who once tried to lick John's fingers would end up forced by inmates to lick a toilet. With the calamity named Anna dealt with, I cleared my throat, lowered my head, to look at John, still sitting astride me, gently stroking my fingers. He had no intention of moving. Smiling, he said, "You tied me up once, I tie you up once. Isn't that fair?" His voice was low and husky, like a downpour inside the chest. "Mary, lately you've rescued Gray, met Justin, and you're planning to help Cato too. Of the three, which one do you like best? Or, do you still like Kevin?" His long, slender fingers traced down my neck, both caress and warning. The question sounded casual, but a chill ran down my spine. With those three, I'd only been acting out the script. What exactly was he thinking? Besides, I'd never liked that fool Kevin in the first place. I frowned, my voice cold. "John, talking like this, aren't you afraid I'll turn on you? Do you really not know who I like?" His fingers paused at my throat. After a moment, his voice sounded again, tinged with longing and unease. "How serious are you? Is this just playing around until you toss me aside? Or have we misread what lies between us? I don't dare gamble. Mary, I can't bear it if you toy with me." I wasn't in the mood to tangle words. With a twist of my wrists, I slipped free of the silk he'd used to bind me, then pulled him hard into my arms. "John, if I dare to marry you, do you dare to wed me?" His eyes flew wide, he stammered, "Really? You mean it?" I smiled, then changed my tone. "Have I ever lied to you? And what about Lisa? You didn't finish last time. Keep talking and make it clear." In this female-dominated world, John's physical strength couldn't match mine. Seeing I was serious, the tips of his ears flushed red, and he stammered, I only asked Lisa how to pursue you, because I kept messing it up." When I said nothing, his eyes reddened. "Mary, I messed up again this time, didn't I?" The truth was so ridiculous, it was almost cute. I pulled John down onto the big bed in the seaside cabin and said, "If you want to win me over, why not ask me directly? Acting like that is naughty, and naughty boys need to be punished." Soft moonlight poured down, hanging quietly in the night sky. And thanks to everyone's efforts from this day forward, there will be no more vicious supporting roles forced to exist only to set off the halo of some protagonist.